everybody, it's Angel from Halo Inspirations. We give you inspirations to help you spread beauty and joy through your quilting journey. Today is block time, and this block back here is a repeating block for this beautiful quilt. So in today's video, I'm not only going to show you how to make the block, but I'm also going to show you how I used it to make this quilt. I've titled this quilt Butterflies in the Flower Garden. Why? Because there's a bunch of butterflies and a bunch of flowers. Yeah, so original, I know. I'm still working on this title thing, okay? This actual quilt does finish at 48 by 56 inches. The block itself, though, is 8.5 unfinished and 8-inch finished. Now, the one really cool thing that I like about repeating blocks is it gives you a lot of opportunity to make it your own. Yes, you can make every quilt your own with fabric choices. However, in a repeating block, you can make it your own by just turning different things or moving different things. There's so much creativity that you can utilize inside of a repeating block type quilt that really you can make your own mark on and allow your creativity to flow. And so that's what I really liked about this block, and it gave me the opportunity to show off some of these bigger prints that we had going on in here. So I really like that for that reason. I hope you will like it too. If you were going to make this particular type of quilt, you would need some background fabric, and I used a 1.25 yards, and you will need a 10 karat crystal pack, layer cake, basically a 10-inch square full pack. You'll need 32 of them, so you won't use the entire thing. However, that gives you some wiggle room, and then of course not every layer cake is created equal, or not every 10-inch square package is created equal. So it gives you some flexibility in there. Some people will even like using 2 of them, even though you only need 32, but that's so they can control what's going on with their fabric. But I use 32 squares, so you'll definitely need a 10-inch square package. When I have not quilted this, I haven't had time yet. When I go to quilt this, I will need 3 1/8 yards of backing fabric, and you would too. Now, I will tell you that does not include overage, and I didn't include it because I understand as a long armor that every long armor has their own quirks on how much overage they like. And then if you were going to quilt it yourself on your domestic, your overage requirements may be different. So I didn't add that in at all. So 3 1/8 would be just enough backing without overage. To go and bind this quilt with a 2.5-inch strip, I usually use a 2.5-inch strip, so it would take you a 1/2 yard to get this quilt binded, to make it look finished and beautiful. So next step, I am going to take you to the cutting board, and I'm going to begin to show you how I constructed this block, more specifics about what I used and why, how to construct the block, and then and then we're going to move forward into how to construct the entire quilt, and a little bit of design show on how you can tweak it to make it your own. So let's go ahead and get this started. The first part to any quilt is preparation, right? So we're going to have to prep this. Now, like I did say, I am using a 10 karat crystal pack, which means this is a 10-inch square pack. It has 42 different pieces. Some of them are duplicates, but it does have 42 10-inch squares inside. This is Madison by Jane Maddie. I sure hope I said her name right. By Wilmington. Fabric, it's absolutely darling. It's got butterflies. It's got flowers, rich colors. I just absolutely love this. Absolutely love this. Now, some people might be asking, why are you using a 10-inch square pack? Very simply, it's because of the variation that I'm going to get out of this pack. It's going to go further, and it's a lot cheaper than me buying a bunch of yardage to get this quilt made. It just goes a lot further. So that's why I chose to do this, besides the fact that I just absolutely love this print. Absolutely love this fabric. So I am using one of those. And I also am using, this is called, and you're going to have a hard time seeing this on camera, but it is called Soft White Butterflies. And it is it's from Maywood Studio, and it's part of their Solitaire Whites collection. And I love this. It's got, what you can't see is this is a soft white, but it's got white butterflies inside here. Some of them are fully open. Some of them look like they're fluttering, but it's absolutely darling. And because there's butterflies here and there's butterflies and flowers over here, it just complemented really well. And the color just went with everything. Both of these I have on my website. I've got a couple of the crystal packs left, and then I have some yardage of soft white butterflies. So for those of you in the United States, if you're interested, you can find them there on my shop. Now with this background fabric, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to prep it and cut it 1.5 by 4.5 inch rectangles. You'll need 252, okay? So that is the background. Now, as far as the crystal or the layer cake or whatever 10-inch square pack that you're using, you're going to first want to separate it out. And the first thing I did, I didn't want to use green. There's actually 2 greens in this pack that I got, and I don't want to use green. So I went ahead and pulled that out. But then I separated them into 2 colors. I've got yellows and I've got blues. Okay. After that, I took and I separated some of them into larger prints. Now, basically the block we're going to be making it's a variation of a fence rail. Because I had some larger prints and I wanted to be able to show those off better, it's kind of hard to do in a 1.5 by 4.5, correct? So some of these are going to be 4.5 inch squares, and it will allow some of these larger prints to really be able to stand out. So I've got larger prints in both the blues. Aren't they just beautiful? I love this. I love this fabric. And some of the larger prints are in yellows, okay? You will need 10 for smaller pieces of both colors, and you will need, out of the larger print, you're going to use 5 all the way through. These are going to be cut into 4.5 inch squares. The last one, the 6th one, you're only going to need 1 4.5 inch square, but you're going to use the other parts with the smallers because you still need partial of another block. So I separated them too. I've got 10 yellow, 10 blues, 6 large print blue, 6 large print yellow. So 16 yellows total and 16 blues. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut this up. So I'm going to get everything ready and show you how to get this prepped even further. The first thing I wanted to talk about was your background fabric. I found it easier and used just slightly less yardage if you cut it in 4.5 inch strips and then cut them down into 1.5 by 4.5 inch rectangles. So I wanted to give you an update on that, and it is 252 1.5 by 4.5 inch rectangles, okay? 252. Now I'm going to show you how to cut 3 squares because those 3 squares are going to allow you to do all the cutting you need. So if you notice, I did flip over my cutting mat so I don't see the lines. I prefer that because the lines sometimes can be distracting, and I'm definitely using my ruler. So the first one I'm going to show you how to cut, or my method on how I cut this. There's plenty of methods out there, but this is how I've been doing mine. It's for the 4.5-inch squares that you'll need, and you'll need 42 of them. So 21 of each color. Okay, and remember I picked out my large prints. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm putting this wrong side up, and I'm going to give myself hopefully a good straight line. If it's not perfectly straight at this point, it's not the end of the world, but I'm going to do this on 2 sides. So there's one, because you know I just don't like that pinking. It just, every company does it different, and I never know if it's an accurate look, if I'm cutting inside, outside, you know, I don't know. So that's the first thing I'm going to do, is I'm going to get rid of the pinking. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do, now I have 2 straight lines, right? We hope. So I'm going to cut these down into 9-inch squares. So keeping this straight. Now if you notice, I'm using my 1/4 inch line here. See if I can come up a little bit. I am using my 1/4 inch line because it's dotted, and I feel like I can see right along there. And then I'm going to line up along this 9-inch, and I'm going to give it a cut. Then I'm going to turn it again, lining up on the 9-inch. Okay. Making sure everything is straight or looks straight. And I'm going to cut off that end. So now I've got a 9-inch square. At this point, I'm going to take it to the 4.5, making sure everything is nice and lined up, nice and straight. And it's not. Okay. And I'm going to cut it in half. And then at this point, you can turn your body or you can turn your cutting mat. I'm going to line it up again on the 4.5 and give it a cut. Making sure I'm at 4.5. You know, measure twice, cut once, right? That should give you 4 4.5-inch squares. Okay. You're going to need one more, because you cut 5 of your blocks into 4.5 inches. Okay, into 4.5-inch squares. So what we just did, you'll do that with 5 of the ones that you have chosen. On this, so that'll give you 20 that we have so far. We need 21. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to give myself hopefully 2 straight edges. Okay. Give it a cut. And now I'm going to cut it 4.5 inches, just like before. Making sure everything's nice and straight as possible. Now, yep, that's good. All right. Now I'm going to leave this one, but I'm going to go ahead and take off a 4.5-inch square here. Okay. And if you wanted to check, because I think one of my lines is off, you could simply square it. It is off, and it's this side. So make it easy on myself to cut. Maybe it's not on that side. Yep, it is. Okay. Just gonna shave off that end. All right, so now I have 21 4.5 by 4.5 squares of the blue and of the yellow, okay? Now with this block, this is going to go to my scrap bin. I'm looking forward to being able to use that. But at this point, we need 6 out of here. So I'm going to go to the 3-inch mark. Am I? No, hold on. Give me just a second. Let me think about this. No, I'm going to go to the 4.5-inch mark. Just slightly off up there. Slightly off down here. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and cut off my 4.5. Then I'm going to go down to 3. Making sure everything looks straight. Then I'm going to go down to my 1.5. Okay, and at this point, I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to line this up on the 4.5. No, I'm not. Sorry, guys, I did this different. I'm going to line this up on the 9. Okay. Making sure everything looks straight. I'm going to go ahead and give it a cut. And at this point, you could kept them together and simply laid on the 4.5 and cut them in half, which would have been the smart thing, but I didn't. So we're going to cut each one down 4.5 inches, making sure everything is lined up. You're just simply going to cut it in half. So there's 2, that'll be 4 and 6. Making sure I'm on the 4.5, making sure that I'm straight. And I'm not. There we go, that's better. Okay, and last 2. And I will tell you, those, you'll use these 6, so you need these 6 off of that extra block, okay? I'm going to put those aside, and I'm going to show you how to cut the other 10 blocks of each color. So you'll do 10 blues and 10 yellows or whatever you're using. So again, same process. You're going to shave off, hopefully, a straight line, getting rid of that pinking. Okay, on 2 of the sides. So there is 1. And if y'all hear the pitter patters, those are my dogs. I apologize for that. Here is 2. At this point, I should have 2 straight lines. I'm going to cut it down to the 9-inch square. And I noticed that I'm straight down here, but I'm a little off over here, and that's okay. We can square that edge. So there's 1. And there's 2. This is a 9-inch square, and I want to remember I was off a little bit, so I want to square it off now to make life easier. Don't have to worry about doing it later. And it's just a itty bitty bit. Okay, so we throw that away. Now from this point, we're going to go to the 7.5 mark, making sure everything is nice and straight. And you're going to give it, make sure you're on the 7.5, give it a cut. Go down to the 6. Make sure it's on the 6. Give it a cut. Go down to the 4.5. Now notice I'm not moving the fabric. I'm only moving my ruler. I have not messed with that. Okay, so that's on the 4.5. Next we go down to the 3. Everything looks straight. Then we go down to the 1.5. Give that a cut. Turn your mat or your body. Line it up on the 4.5 mark. Again, making sure you're nice and straight. Cut once. And that should give you 12 1.5 by 4.5 inch rectangles. Now you want to do that with 10 of one color and 10 of the other. Okay. So now the next step that we're going to do is we're going to start to assemble these. Now I don't know how well you can see, but I've got everything in piles. Okay. Now for right now, I'm not going to mess with the 4.5 inch blocks, but I am going to get these somewhat organized. I'm only going to show you how to do basically one. All right. Let's do it like this. Oh yeah, and we've got some of these. This is different. Okay. Now 2, 4, we're going to need 6 to start. Okay. And 6 yellows. And you're going to need some of your whites or your off-whites or your background fabric. Every block is going to have 6 of one color, 6 of the other color, and then 12 of these. So you want to start with a blue. And then you'll want to do a yellow. A background. Then you'll want to do a yellow. And then you're going to want to do a background. And you're going to make 3 of these for every block. So I always start with the blue. Background. Yellow. Background. Okay, start with the blue. Background, then go to yellow and a background. At this point I am going to chain piece, and I know I have a lot of people who are beginner quilters that are following, so I'm going to show you exactly what I mean, but this is going to go for one block. The other part of that will be a 4.5 inch square, but we'll get back to all of that. So I'm going to take you to my sewing machine. I'm going to show you what I mean by chain piecing. So I'll see you there in just a sec. So I've brought all my strips with me that are going in that block, and I said it wrong earlier. I realized it now. It's 3 blues, 3 yellows, and 6 backgrounds for each block. Okay. I said it wrong earlier. That is the correct amount. So what we're going to do now, I've brought it all over here. I'm going to sew by chain piecing each one of these. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to take the first two, one blue, one background, and you're going to put them together, right sides together, of course. Now I have my sewing machine set up for a scant 1/4 inch because that's usually what I sew with. And I usually do a leader ender, but I'm going to go ahead and start this one off without it. Okay, so it's still not straight, guys. I am going to sew these by chain piecing. So I'm going to show you what that is for those of you who are super new. So I've got my first two going through. And yes, I am a slow sewist. Okay. Then I'm not going to cut threads here. I'm going to take my yellow in my background. And I'm going to go ahead and go right behind it. Making sure everything is nice and straight. Lift the presser foot a little. Getting this next fabric right up against that needle. Whoop. Got lucky on that one. Go ahead and send it through. Then the next one, this is a blue in a background. Gonna send it through right behind it. So you got to make sure that you get close to the edge and then set the next one behind it. And this one started to get off canter, so we're just going to straighten it. There we go. And you could pin if you like. I try not to as much as possible. Then the yellow and blue, I'm going to leave those out. I'm going to show you what as soon as I'm done with these last three, I'll show you what we do next. And you could run every single 2x2 through, creating this long, long chain. But I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes, so I'm just getting through the one block. I didn't grab it. There we go. Whew, that might be off a little bit, but that's okay. I can fix it later. And then the last one for this block. And believe it or not, by chain piecing, not only are you allowing a better opportunity to get a straight line when you sew, but you are also saving thread. And y'all know me, anywhere where you can save money, that means you can buy more fabric. Okay, now instead of clipping here, I'm going to come to the end of it and snip it. And as you see, we've got a nice little chain here with individual little seams in between. Put that over here for now. I don't have my thread bucket. So I'm just going to simply snip, keeping them in the same order. I'm just going to snip those strings in between. Okay, and at this point, I would take it to the ironing board, okay? And I'm going to do this. I'm going to press towards the dark side, so not the background, okay? Then we have a blue and a yellow. Remember, it goes blue, white, yellow, white, correct? Now, like I said, I would take this all to the pressing board and get them all pressed, but for demonstration purposes, you're then going to sew these two together. So I'm going to take the blue one and put it on top of the yellow and white one, and I'm going to nest those seams. Now, if you really wanted to, like I said, you could pin to make sure that they stay set, but the most important part is that this line is straight that you're going to sew. Okay, so you're going to sew the white on to the yellow, okay? And you're going to do that all the way through. And you can chain piece these too. That's the beauty behind this. You just keep on sending it through. I'm going to do one more because I want to show you what this part of this block looks like. So again, towards the dark side, or not the background. Okay. And again. All right. You're going to take the blue and white with the blue on top, put it the white on top of the yellow. The right sides are together. Making sure that line is straight. It actually does help if they nest it a little bit. It helps you keep that straight line. Although the nesting is not important because it's not going to stay. And then we're just going to simply send it through. So you can chain piece first 1 to 1, a blue to a white, a yellow to a white. Then once you get those two together, you sew 4 together. And what you'll end up with, and remember this yellow one goes with this blue one, is a, whoops, upside down, is you're going to have your blue, your background, your yellow, and your background. And of course, you'd also press that seam. You could do it to the dark side. That would be fine. They're not going to line up. So I'm going to show you the next step here when I go over to the back to the cutting board, because I want to show you what you're going to do with all of these. Okay. So at any rate, we'll be right back. I'm going to finish these up. I'm going to get them pressed, and I will see you there, and I'll show you how to construct one block. Okay, so once you have all of your blocks, your strips sewn together, these blocks should finish at 4.5 square, just like this one. So the next step then is to start assembling our blocks. And I will tell you, it's just like a 4-patch. So you want to make sure the blue's going down on this one, the blue's going out, and the blue's going up. Okay? Then you're simply going to take this side over the top and sew your seam. And sew your seam. Okay? When you're done with that, you will have 2 blocks that look like this. And these will finish at 4.5 by 8.5. Okay? I will also tell you the next step is to take the top again and then sew the seam in between. Because of that, this seam right here, just like a 4-patch, will help if you nest it. So when you sew the first 2 together, I'd press this seam going towards this block, and I'd press this seam going towards that block. Okay? Then your seams will nest ever so beautifully, absolutely beautifully, and it'll make your life a heck of a lot easier. Okay? And you will end up with something like this. And this finished block actually comes out to 8.5 inch squared. Okay? 8.5 inch squared. Now, you know how I am about chain piecing. So to do all of the blocks, now I'm doing 6 across and 7 down, so that's 42 blocks. Basically, what I have done is I've taken the 42 squares that are just 4.5 inch squared. All my strips, I've got them going in the right direction. So again, the blue goes on the down on this one, the blue goes on the outside, and the blue goes towards this block. I'll take this just like it is to my sewing machine, and I will sit here. I'll take this and I'll send it through, and I'll take this one right behind it and send it through, and I'll do that for the entire pile. And then once all of these have been pressed in the correct direction, I will take all the tops to the bottoms and chain piece those all through. So that is one way to keep yourself organized, and you don't have to think about which way these things go. If you just put them all in piles and take them to your sewing machine just like so, and sew each half together and then sew the halves together, it will really truly help you keep you organized. So I am going to take you to my design board next because I want to show you something really cool with this block that has some really neat things that you can do. So I'm going to take you there next, and I'll see you in just a sec. So here we are at the design board. I just wanted to show you something really cool about this block. So this is just laid out where every single 4.5 inch is up in the corner of this side. I'm not sure if that's your left or right, so I don't want to say. But you could very simply just start turning one of them. So we'll say all the yellows. Let's see if I do it like, whoops, gotta love it. Let's say we do it a little bit like this, because I think this will show it better. Let's see, then it would be yellow would go this way, blue would go this way, yellow would go that way. Might help if they were somewhat lined up. So what happened here is it will create two 4.5 inch blocks together constantly, okay? You could even though, let's see how I would do this one. We could do like this. And what that will show you is a nice diagonal that'll run through your quilt of the 4.5, and it'll be blue, yellow. You could turn it one more time. Whoop, not that one. And totally, how did I do that? Oh, it goes this way. There we go. And what that will do, actually we turn it this way. There we go. Okay. So what that'll end up doing for you is giving you two solid blocks together. So there's so many things. I mean, you could even turn it, it depends on your fabric. When you go to do, if you end up using this block, I would, depending on what fabric you end up using, will determine what I think. You need to put all of your blocks out and see which ones work the best. But see, here we have all four blocks. So you're going to create a nice square here with rails on the outside. And it's it's just really, really cool that you have so many options. So many options. Even with the diagonal, there we go. You'll end up getting a secondary pattern inside with your blues, not with the yellows, but with the blues. You'll get these stripes that'll run through. So if you use this block, I would highly encourage you to put it somewhere on your bed, on your design wall, on the floor, on the dining room table, and play with your blocks and see which layout would really, really work for you. I actually contemplating on putting sashing in this. I think that would have looked real nice. I didn't have a lot of time, so I left it out, but you could think about that too. I think the name of this block is rail fence flag. So think about if you had this as blue and then these other ones were red and white stripes. I mean, would that not be so cool? And it would be very striking. And if you really wanted the flag to stand out, adding a sashing around it would be really cool too. So I just wanted to give you an idea with this type of block that there are so many variations depending on which block you turn and how many times you turn it. And like I said, it really will depend on your fabric which variation I would use, because I actually thought I was going to do something different because I had it up on a computer and I had it designed. It looked really cool. I got it on the board and it wasn't going to go. I actually went back to the first one that I started with. So it really should depend on your fabric and what you want to do with something like that. So have fun with this. You could even do one and then put, another square, a full square in between. Oh my, I mean, there are just a lot of things. I could even see doing another 4 patch depending on the color variations that you're using. This block is so awesome, but I wanted to give you an idea of what this block can do. So I hope that this helped. Let me know if you have questions, but I'll see you in just a second. Isn't she beautiful? I love the butterflies in the flower garden. This was a lot of fun, and I really, really, truly do love this particular block. I think there's a lot of things you can do with it with the right fabric, and a lot of creativity can go inside of this. So if you have any questions, just let me know. You can either drop them down below in the comments, or you can send me an email, or you can visit us at Facebook today at 3 p.m. I will be there live to answer any questions that you may have. I also will be talking about a few other things that I wanted to add in just for those people who come out and visit us there at Facebook. The link for that is down below, so I hope to see you all there. I will also tell you that I've put together a supply list with a general diagram of the quilt. Now, like I said earlier, I had a plan, and when I went to the design board with the fabric, the plan changed. So you're seeing the old plan, but remember, you can make this your own. It's the same block, it's just a different style. And I will update this later today or tomorrow to be sure that it matches what I've done. But I wanted to let you know that that was already out there. It's on our website. The link for that is down below. It does give you all of the things that you'll need so you didn't have to remember. Everything we talked about at the beginning, it's all in there, along with a diagram. I'd show it to you, but I'm sure it's going to white it out. So the other thing that I didn't do, and I wanted to talk a little bit about this. Originally, I thought I'd put a border on it, and I decided not to. I'm not a big border girl, but I definitely don't like borders with busy quilts. And I felt like this was a busy quilt, and I think adding a border might take it away a little bit. So that was maybe I'll change my mind. I'm not quilting it yet. I've got 2 quilts I got one on the long arm and one right behind it before I can get to this. So there's a little time for me to play. But I wanted to let you know that I probably will not add a border to this, but that's your design. That's another thing that you can add your own little twist to your quilt. So yes, like I said, if you have any questions, just give me a shout out. I look at all of the comments, and if you have anything, it didn't even matter if you don't have a question, if you just have a comment, love to hear about it. If this is your first time, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the little bell to let you know when the next video will come out. Next week, I believe I'm covering a method. So you'll start to see a pattern in the videos. And between now and December, I've added an extra one in there for Christmas type stuff. But you'll start to see a pattern to the videos. And so next week, I believe, is a method. I think I'm going to be talking about crumb quilting, if I can remember correctly. So I look forward to seeing you all next week. And if this is something that you decide to try, even if it's just making a block, please do share. We all would love to see it, not just me, but all of us, and especially if you're in the creative kingdom, because it makes it really easy to share. Would love to see that. But until next week, guys, or until later today at 3 p.m., may y'all continue to be inspired, productive, and joyful. And never stop making your dreams in quilting come true. I love y'all. Thanks for coming by. Happy Wednesday. Whoop, whoop. See y'all soon.